Blue Barbecue and other things I want to do. And let me tell you what I've got going on for you today. We're going to do gumbo. Yeah, gumbo. I know, I am recording this on July 1st, 2018, and it's going to upload a few days later. All right, it sure ain't gumbo weather. You know what that means? It means it's cold outside. You see, we've got a lot of expressions here in South Louisiana. You may know some of them, like laissez la bonne rouler, let the good times roll, pass a good time share. Lagniappe, which is a little something extra, a little gift, or a little something special. You know, a lot of good expressions, and gumbo weather's one of them. It means cold weather, like November, December, January. That's our winter, and that's not much of a winter here either. So gumbo weather's cold weather. Also, we have an expression that says, you know, hey, don't eat oysters in a month that doesn't have an R in it, because the months that don't have R's, May, June, July, August, are summer months, you know. Summertime is generally not oyster season, but I got some fresh oysters from Massachusetts, way up north. And this is going to be the third of 3 videos involving the oysters. And it's actually, there's a fourth one that kind of goes along with this. I'll share that information to you in a minute. But they were sent to me by Mr. Greg Miller, who also sent me some spices, y'all. Okay, and I want to use these oysters. So I shucked all 50 of them. I made some charbroiled oysters on the grill. That video link will be down below, and I'll have it right there in the iCard above. All right, and I am going to take the other 2 dozen oysters and put them in this seafood gumbo. Now, it's kind of crazy making seafood gumbo in the middle of the summer with fresh oysters and canned crabs. By the way, it's crab season, and I have plans to go take my son crabbing in the coming weeks, and if I do, I'm gonna take the YouTube viewers along, all right? But that's neither here nor there. We need to make a gumbo almost from scratch. This is an almost from scratch seafood gumbo. Let me show you the ingredients list. Okay, right over here, I've got ingredients. I store-bought all these. I store-bought the shrimp. I store-bought the crab meat. I've got 2 things of crab meat. It's summer. I may go crabbing soon, but this is store-bought crab meat. Store-bought gumbo filet, Worcestershire sauce, hot sauce. The tomato powder, I'm going to use tomato powder. A lot of them you call for a can of tomatoes. This can's a little too big for the 6 quarts of gumbo I'm going to make. And I'm not a big fan of tomatoes in gumbo anyway, plus I'm using a cast iron pot. So I'm just going to use the tomato powder instead of the canned tomatoes. So that the acid doesn't eat away my seasoning too much. Using some marjoram instead of oregano. I've got oregano, but marjoram's a good substitute. It was given to me by the same guy that gave me the oysters, all right? Store-bought parsley to go on top, and green onions that'll go on top of the gumbo toward the end of the cook. I got the Cajun Trinity here, celery, bell pepper, onion, store-bought all that. Also got a head of garlic, store-bought. So guess that none of that's from scratch, all right? Got pint of oysters, but I shucked them myself, but I didn't even buy them or harvest them. They came from Massachusetts. And even though I shucked them fresh just yesterday myself, I don't guess they're from scratch because I didn't go get them, right? All right, now this is fish, 2 catfish fillets and some brim fillets. I'm using freshwater fish because I live an hour and a half north of the coast. Traditional seafood gumbo may use a red fish or a red snapper or something, but I'm using catfish and brim. I've got, let's see, 4 cat and 8 brim fillets in there. That's about a pound. I measured it 15.95 pounds. I caught, cleaned them, and got them out of my own pond. But I guess I bought them as fingerlings, so they're not scratch. Catfish stock, made that too, from catfish I caught out of my own pond. But like I said, I had to buy them from the fish hatchery, not scratch. Okra from my garden. Planted them with seeds from okra from last year, but I bought that okra, so I guess that's not officially from scratch either. All right, bacon grease. I fried up some bacon, got some bacon grease, but I didn't raise the pig, so that's not from scratch. Seasonings, Cajun Creole seasoning and Raging Cajun seasoning. This is from Tony's cookbook, Tony Satre's cookbook, so it's like Tony Satre's. And this is from Stephen Reichland's cookbook, and it's got gumbo filet in it, so I'm probably going to just use this filet, this seasoning instead of that seasoning, but either one of them is fine. All right, also got some crawfish stock. I boiled up the crawfish heads and made some crawfish stock, but I bought the crawfish. Also got some croutons I'm gonna throw on top, okay? Got rice and got flour. I didn't make that either. I guess it's impossible to make a gumbo from scratch. Okay, I'm gonna chop up the celery, the onion, the bell pepper, all the vegetables and the okra off camera, okay? You'll see me putting them in the pot in a minute. But the first thing we got to do is make a roux. We need the bacon grease, we need a cup of flour, and we need a secret ingredient. I'm gonna tell you that secret ingredient to the roux here in just a moment. Okay, I got this old wooden handled Griswold skillet heating up. This is for the roux. I like to cook my roux in a separate pan and then add it in later. A lot of people do it right in the same pot. Now I've only got about half a cup of bacon grease. So I'm gonna need 2 cups of oil because we're gonna make a double roux. For a roux, you want a cup of oil and a cup of flour. So I'm gonna use 2 cups of flour and 2 cups of oil. So I'm just adding vegetable oil, and I got about half a cup of that bacon grease and a cup and a half of the vegetable oil. We're gonna make a lot of roux, all right? We'll get that hot. All right, the oil got hot and I dumped in 2 cups of flour. We're going to make a double roux. About 1 cup of flour to 1 cup of oil to make a roux, okay? Now this is about half a cup of bacon grease and a cup and a half of vegetable oil. All right, now there is a ingredient you need in roux, and that is patience. If you do not have patience, you can't make a good gumbo roux, because gumbo roux has got to be dark without burning. Here's your measuring stick. You see that right there? You see that? Your gumbo has got to be, your roux rather, has got to be that dark. If your roux is not milk chocolate dark, it's not done yet. We'll be back when the roux is done. Okay, been standing here about 10 minutes, slowly stirring this roux. It's about peanut butter color. It's not milk chocolate color yet. We want to keep on going. I don't know what happened to the other part of them. Almost there, just a little darker. But do not burn it. Patience. It's on medium heat, medium low at this point. All right, okay. This is just about done. Let's see. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. That's how dark we want that roux. All right, that area right there, real close to it. Look at that, guys. That's pretty close. That's how dark you want your roux. Milk chocolate dark. All right, we ready to saute some Cajun Trinity. Okay, I've removed the roux. It's sitting to the side. We'll use it when we need it. I've got a 6-quart cast iron pot. Now listen, if you're gonna put tomatoes in your gumbo, don't use an enameled cast iron pot, an aluminum pot, a stainless steel pot, or something like that. All right, half a stick of butter. Boom. Butter's going. It's time to dump in the bell pepper, the onion, and 2 ribs of celery. That's about the ratio you want for the Cajun Trinity. You don't have to get these onions down quite as dark as you do for jambalaya, but we're gonna do it close anyway. We're gonna get these onions sweated down, almost caramelized here, okay? Be back when that's done. The onions are translucent and just beginning to caramelize. You don't really need to caramelize them for gumbo, but get them close to that, a little past the translucent part. What I just dumped in was the whole head of garlic, chopped up. And we're gonna start stirring that in with it. Put the garlic in last because it'll burn easy, okay? Okay, the garlic's begun to cook. Didn't take long for that. And what I'm dumping in is 2 pints of fish stock, catfish stock, and 3 pints of crawfish stock. I may add some more water later if I need it. Okay, now it's time to get the roux in here. So the roux is right here. This is that deep, dark roux that we made. Looks like chocolate, so we're just gonna get that all in there. Okay, all the roux's going in there. Needed help from the redneck spanking spoon. The wood paddle was inadequate. All right, once you got the roux in there, begin to stir and get it all incorporated in, mixed in, all right? Okay, it's time to start seasoning this. Now the roux's all mixed in. We're gonna start adding some seasoning. So I'd say about a tablespoon of Cajun Creole seasoning. And you know what? I'm just gonna double it up. Instead of 2 tablespoons there, I'm gonna go with maybe a tablespoon of the Reichland's Rub 2. I'm gonna use both of them and maybe I'd use twice as much of one, but I'm using half of each. How's that sound, okay? When you make a gumbo, the ultimate comfort food, don't need to do a whole lot of measuring. That's just kind of antithetical to home-cooked comfort food. But, you know, I'd say, you know, that much. That's how much you want there. All right. About a tablespoon of oregano. I would normally just dash it out, but I'm actually using the majorum that Greg Miller sent me, and the oyster, who also sent me the oysters that we're putting in this thing. So there you go, oregano, majorum, all right, in there. Now, seafood gumbos sometimes have tomatoes. A lot of older recipes do. A lot of people say, oh, tomato doesn't go in gumbo because it's usually not in chicken and sausage gumbo. What I'm doing is putting tomato powder. And if I was using canned tomatoes, I would not be using this cast iron pot. All right, but I'm putting that's 1 tablespoon of tomato powder. All right, you could use a tomato paste, you could use tomato sauce, you could use canned tomatoes, you could use fresh tomatoes. You'd have to sweat them down some in that mixture we did earlier if you did that. All right, we're gonna continue to stir it. That's about all the seasoning we're gonna need. It's time now to put in the okra. All right, get the okra going in there. We're gonna let that cook for a little bit. And I'll be right back with you. This is a bit thick, so we're adding maybe 2 or 3 cups of water. Like I said earlier, now that's looking about right. That is looking about right. Okay, let's get the fish in there. This is all that catfish and bluegill cut up into bite-sized pieces. I live about an hour and a half from the coast. I don't have saltwater fish. I've got a pond. That's the fish I'm using. Now we are adding the shrimp. All right, and the oysters. With the juice and everything. So there's those 24 oysters. Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Don't know if I've said that enough, but I can't thank you enough. All right, well, what we're gonna do now that we've got the fish and the shrimp in there is we're gonna bring this to a boil and take it down to a simmer. And then we're gonna do that for about 20 to 30 minutes. And then we're gonna add in the crab meat. The crab meat's already cooked, so we're not adding it in at this point. All right, we're also gonna add in the parsley and the green onion tops and a little bit of filet. So what it is, it's time now is to cover this up, let it cook, put on a pot of rice, and I'm gonna reset the camera because the camera is sitting right there where the rice needs to be. Okay, well, I've already moved the camera tripod, but you know what? I forgot to put in about a tablespoon of hot sauce. So let's get a tablespoon of hot sauce in there. That's good. Not quite a tablespoon. I'll taste it and see if we need more. And a little bit of Worcestershire. I don't like a lot of Worcestershire. Most of the recipes call for about up to 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire. Then we're just gonna add just a little dash to it, to mine. Okay, there's about 10 minutes before it's done. The rice is just about done over here in the Volrathware pot. And this has been brought to a raging boil and then brought down to a simmer. Actually, it's boiling a little bit. That's okay. We'll simmer it. And we've got 3, possibly 4 more ingredients we're going to add at this time. The most important of which is the crab meat. Since I'm using, canned crab, put that in last, but normally you're gonna cook crabs live, so your crab meat's already gonna be cooked. The shrimp, the fish, the oysters, they go in sooner. I'm just gonna dump it in there. I'm gonna stir that all around here in just a minute. Oh, maybe almost half a cup of fresh parsley. You could use that for garnish at the end, as you serve it if you want to. And then maybe half a cup of green onion tops, all right? And get all in there. And then maybe 5 or 10 more minutes on this, and we'll be ready to serve it. It seemed like just a blink of an eye to you. There's one other ingredient I need to show you. If you don't use okra, you need filet. This is a thickening agent. It's made from the ground sassafras leaves. If you use okra, you may not need it. Mine is very thick and I don't need much of it. However, I like the flavor, so when I serve it, I may sprinkle this on top of it. All right, but you gotta have some gumbo filet. If you don't know what it looks like that right there. Throw that in the pot. Hey, you know what? We'll just add a little bit anyway, but we don't really need it. Just give it a little bit of flavor. All right, cover it back up, stir it up, cover it back up. About 10 more minutes on this. Okay, this gumbo is done. Been about 10 minutes since you've seen me last. It's been about 30 minutes since we put the fresh fish and the shrimp and the fresh oysters in there. And about 10 minutes since we put the crab and the parsley and the other stuff. All right, the rice is done here in this old Volrathware pot. Let me get a pot holder so I can get it open. You always serve gumbo on rice. One time I met a lady from New Mexico and she kept talking about gumbo soup and then asked why it was served on rice. Gumbo is served on top of a plate of rice. All right, just like that. Now, let's get the gumbo going. All right, now let's do the gumbo. There it is. Can you see that right there? There's fish, there's shrimp, there's oysters, there's crab meat. Oh, wow. So seafood gumbo with fresh oysters from Massachusetts, catfish and bluegill from my pond, shrimp from the Gulf of Mexico. All right, store-bought from the Gulf of Mexico. Look at that. Look at that gorgeousness right there. Now, I smoked these. I know it's in a Ziploc bag, but that's how I store them. Smoked these yesterday on my Weber grill. Croutons. I'll sprinkle a few right on top. I need a few more of those. These things are delicious. All right, taste test time. I'll let the kids serve themselves and we're gonna do a taste test. All right, YouTube, look at that. Look at that right there. Just look at that deliciousness. Ooh-wee. All right. Got some oysters from Massachusetts. Got some Gulf shrimp. Got some lump crab meat from Lake Pontchartrain. I got some catfish and bluegill from my pond. All right. Oh yeah, and there's an oyster. You can tell the oysters because the little edges curl up. Oh, that's good. That's good. I need to add a little salt, a little bit more of that Cajun Creole seasoning, a little bit more. But you know what? Other than that, it's really good. Still really hot with that smoked crouton. Oh, delicious. Hey, Mr. Greg Miller, thank you so much for the oysters. I've really enjoyed them. Hope you've enjoyed watching these oyster videos too, YouTube viewers. And seafood gumbo, delicious. Big Lou barbecue.